who defeated depression. What really helped? Story 1. I lived one day at a time, stopped aspiring to things in the future, dropped my goals in life, and tried to be in the moment. In the first period, I just slept a lot. At some point, I didn't feel the need to sleep anymore except for the night, and I started to look at my job and I switched jobs. That started to make me feel a little better. I then started eating healthier. From then on, my hobbies finally felt fun again. It felt like a long time, but the moment I noticed I got out of my depression, which was at least 5 year, is because I suddenly felt a twinge of happiness in my body. It felt like I woke up from a dark dream. Not as much a nightmare. It felt like the light went on. Everything suddenly appeared brighter. I smiled more. I got more smiles back. I started to chat again with complete strangers. I really went from darkness to the light. And the funny thing is, I still don't know how I got this depressed. Story 2. You don't defeat depression, you manage it. This can be done through any combo of medication, therapy, having the right job, being around the right people, and finding fulfillment in your life. Story 3. Accepting that depression is never fully defeated. I know that sounds contradictory, but in the darkest periods, it has been really helpful to remind myself, you're just sick, and you will start to feel better. Story 4. Getting into shape. Quitting substance abuse, not totally abstaining from everything. Don't get scared, lol. I said abuse. Ridding my life of toxic people relationships, including my own wife of 15 years, who was the root cause of most of my depression, as our relationship was the textbook definition of a trauma bond. Then finally starting to live for me. Story 5. Welp, I typed a long reply and Reddit deleted it. Reddit. Not sure that depression can ever really be defeated, but I did a psychedelic journey with a guide, and it changed my life. Story 6. Several things. 1. Medication. 2. Enough sleep. 3. Retiring from the working world. 4. Eating right-ish and drinking water. 5. Cutting off toxic friends and family members. 6. My dogs. 7. Avoiding alcohol. 8. Therapy, of course. Story 7. Sobriety. Times 1,000. No alcohol, and especially no weed. I'm grateful for 472 days sober. Edit and making more money, which in turn happened because of my sobriety. Story 8. I have battled depression 5 times. I have found I have to force myself to get exercise or get out of the house. If I need to get a fitness buddy to rely on each other, I will. Sleep, seafood, and comedy shows help too. Also, seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist is helpful. Story 9. If it's defeated, it's only temporary. You need to build healthy new habits to keep it at bay. You also need to pay a lot of attention to how you feel every day. Depression can come on slowly, and you have to learn to recognize it and do what you have learned will work to chase it away again. It is a lifelong battle. For me, it is anyway. Also, antidepressants and a therapist. Both of those require work that is initially hard to do, but worth it. Story 10. I literally transformed my entire lifelong depression when I finally listened to my therapist. I remember the day she told me that depression is a choice and I never hated anyone more in my life. But throughout time, I realized it was 100 true. The CBT triangle talks about how we have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You can't control for the most part your thoughts and feelings, but you can control your behaviors. You can't help that you feel depressed or think depressed things, but you can do opposite action and do the opposite of what you want to do as a depressed person. With depression, motivation follows action, not the other way around. When you're depressed and you say, I haven't cleaned in a while, I'll wait until I feel a little better to it is exactly like saying, I'll wait to go to the gym until I have abs. The only way to beat depression is to do the opposite it asks of you. Truly life-changing. Story 11. TMS. Transcranial magnetic stimulation. It was a lifesaver. I did 2 sets of 36 treatments. It is a commitment, but it's so worth it. You can drive yourself to and from treatments. It grows new neurons. Read about it online. I use the brainwave system. Story 12. Not recommending this to anybody, but my buddy took me in for a month and a half for free. Everything paid for. We went out and spent the whole time together. Did a ton of mushrooms and ket, and just talked. He helped me through when I would start spiraling, and we set up some plans for after my trip, literally and figuratively, about how I handle myself with my spiraling thoughts. 3 years later, and I am doing better, and that man will always be my family. Story 13. Coping, honesty, reflection, integrity, surrender, acceptance, growth. Is depression ever really defeated? I don't know, but being genuinely grateful in life can significantly help. Story 14. Adequate sleep. 1 to 2 hours of yoga daily. Eating a healthy diet, getting rid of toxic people, stop eating junk, sugar, not worrying too much about the future and staying present, because the present, the things in front of us, is the only thing that's real, tangible, and something we can control. Spending more time with positive and emotionally healthy people. Stop watching too much news. Spending more time with pets. Less time on social media. Story 15. Eating a balanced diet and losing weight. I struggled with depression so much until I had surgery and had to make a ton of lifestyle changes. I still get the occasional random sadness, but I don't live in constant depression anymore. Story 16. I started antidepressants. They didn't defeat depression for me. It created the space I needed from my depression to leverage my therapy learnings. You can't medicate everything away. Story 17. Various things helped me overcome my depression that lasted several years, but the most important thing was realizing that I could get better, and then making the decision to get better no matter what I had to do. These things all helped me at varying degrees of success meditation. This takes practice and is frustrating at first. Keep at it, and you'll be able to give yourself moments of peace. A few-minute break from the suffocation of depression is sometimes life-saving. Writing down my feelings and trying to figure out why I'm feeling them. This helped me learn myself, identify stressors, and figure out what I needed to improve my mental health. Exercise. This is such an easy thing to do in the sense that you can almost always do it every day, and it helps immediately. If you're depressed, it can make anything worse. Talking to people. This one sometimes helped the most, but also sometimes backfire. People are unpredictable, but getting out there can help. Nutrition and sleep. This does so much more than most people think. Eating healthy can be hard if you're poor, and getting sleep can be difficult for a lot of people. But try your best to eat a healthy diet and get 8 hours of sleep 9-10 if you're female. Find a creative outlet. Whether it's drawing, writing, making video games, or singing in the shower, find something to get at least some of the thoughts out of your head. Working. Having a job and focusing on it will keep you distracted and obviously make you money. Money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a jet ski. This is a reference. I know depression can't be cured by jet skis, but seriously, it might help. Go on adventures. Even just going on a walk in your local park can help. Breathe fresh air, enjoy nature, move your body around, realize how small we are, and that we're just here to live. Seek professional help. This obviously can be hard if you're under 18 or can't afford it, but therapy really can help. You need to find a therapist that's good at their job and is a good match for you. So don't give up after the first one. Most first therapies don't go well, but if you find a good therapist, they can absolutely change your life. Don't judge me, but THC, edible or flower. Story 18. Ketamine and Wellbutrin. Before these drugs, I didn't know how it felt to walk through life without a constant feeling of blah existentialism. To be clear, it's not a cure. All but ketamine really helped me see the bigger picture. Wellbutrin helped me feel energy and motivation. Somewhere in this journey, I stopped drinking. I think having to deal with being yourself all the time also helps. There's no escape or denial of your problems, so you can catch things much faster and reverse them faster. Also, I discovered you don't have to listen to the voices in your head. Just because you hear them doesn't mean it's a real reflection of your mind. A lot of it is conditioned by our society, for example, judging someone who is fat. You can also speak back, and at first it really feels stupid, but you have to build that muscle. I'm still working on it, and self-love and all that, and not putting myself down in every conversation. I know I'll get depressed again, but it's gotten less painful, and I've learned how to deal with it. Knock on, though. Story 19. Cognitive behavioral therapy, meditation, mindfulness, and self-reflection. Learning who I was, what I wanted, and what I needed to let go of. The final and most difficult step was loving myself. I'm not a religious person, but something I read just stuck with me. God told me to love my enemy, so I obeyed and loved myself. Story 20. Posted this in another thread. Reposting here because it's relevant. But caveat, there is no real defeating depression. It's like gravity. You always come down eventually. This just helped me stay on top of the cycle of depression, so that when I catch myself coming back down, I can get back up quicker. Here's my advice. Ignore what other people say or do if it isn't adding value, or you don't find it useful and actionable in a real, tangible way. If it isn't useful, it's useless by definition. Don't waste time and energy on anything you can't use in your life. Get off social media. If you do this, you'll notice that a lot of people you are allowing to occupy space in your life will just disappear, straight up. It will be lonely, but that's okay. If they can't be bothered to reach out to you, then they didn't belong in your life to begin with. Focus on the real relationships you have right in front of you, and embolden those rather than fixating on parasocial relationships. Lock in for 1 to 3 months. During that time, do all of the things you've probably already tried or been told to try. Go to the gym. This is especially important. Read self-help books. Take walks. Get outside, etc. This is the most important step for me. Write every day. Catalog your thoughts. Brain dump every day. It doesn't have to be a conscious thing, but this is the key. Start out just writing your woe is me feelings. If you're feeling down, exercise that. Write down your pain. Write down what's hurting you. Write how you're dissatisfied in life. When you're stuck in depression or on a negative train of thought, it is a waste of time and energy to try to force yourself out of it using false positivity or making a to-do list or goal list. or manifesting motivation. I've tried it. It doesn't work. It isn't sustainable. Instead, you need to get your negative thoughts on paper, without the intention of trying to force yourself in any direction that doesn't feel natural or instinctual. If your instinct is woe is me, then let your writing be woe is me. Write your thoughts without judgment or fear of judgment. Just let that negativity flow out of you, then read them. Doing this, you will be able to plainly see all of the things that make you angry, upset, or dissatisfied laid out. After a few days, you'll notice patterns. Highlight them, take stock of them, organize them, put them into clear view, revisit them, let them anger you. Let the fact that these feelings control you, anger you. Then go back to the gym, or go on a walk or whatever, and channel that anger into some kind of activity. Repeat this process for however long it takes. Allow yourself to get angry, because anger and passion are energizing. But you need to make that anger productive. You need to direct it at something in order for it to be of any benefit. When you repeat this enough, you teach yourself the ability to leverage your negativity and channel it into something productive. Productive is positive. A daily discipline of fitness will make you both physically and mentally strong. Eventually, you will notice yourself feeling better, more energetic, happier, and generally more content with yourself. That's the foundation of confidence. This works because when you're depressed, or down, or just sad, and you don't have a clear direction about what you want to work towards, then you need to paint an extremely clear picture of what you are working away from. Finding direction away from something is just as valid as having direction towards something. Then, you will have enough mental space and clarity to start thinking about things like, what do I like? What am I interested in? What am I good at? What do I want? Eventually, inevitably, life will ebb and flow, and you will need to repeat this process. It isn't a straight line, it's a circle. And that circle always leads back to stasis in one way or another. You need to learn the practice of getting yourself out of stasis first before you can build momentum, and then momentum pulls you in the right direction. I hope this was helpful. Story 21. For me, depression and substance abuse were tightly linked in both the problem and the eventual solution. Getting sober was far and away the most important thing. I was using all sorts of substances, most significantly weed and ketamine, to self-medicate, and while they helped in the moment, they made the problem far worse over time. Once I was clean, I was able to do things like move on from unhealthy relationships, form new healthy ones, get sleep, diet, and exercise to a healthy place, and work with psychiatrists to get my meds right without the confounding interference of all the other mind and mood-altering substances I had been on. 12-step recovery and individual therapy provided an extremely helpful structure for working on all of those things with the support of other people. Today, my depression is fully in remission. Story 22. You don't defeat depression, you learn how to manage it. Staying busy with things you love, no phone, community, going outside, no alcohol, being around friends. Story 23. I fought depression for 3 decades, and I can confidently say I've won a lasting victory. Surprising tools. For me, when I'm going through something hard and I know I need a lift to get through it, simply forcing myself to put on a little smile, even though it feels off, actually helps. There's science for this. Just the act of smiling, even if you're not feeling it, can release some dopamine. Analyze your sleep, food, and physical activity, and try over time to optimize each of those factors in your daily routine. They each hit really hard when they're out of balance, so tuning them up can help a lot. Secure a therapist who you can talk to about whatever you're working on in yourself. A person can only do so much on their own, but when you have a good specialist to help you, it can make a world of difference. Remember to take pride in what you've accomplished. Build a list of things you've done or that you're doing, which you take pride in, and remember to refer to it if you're feeling down. Even if we can't feel awesome all the time, remembering what you take pride in can help counteract runaway distress. Hope this helps. 3. Story 24. Getting on a better sleep, finding opportunities to leave the home and socialize, finding a new hobby, getting more sun, stop drinking, start eating better. For me, it's the keto diet. Story 25. Going trans. Lived my whole life hiding who I was. Not saying it's always a solution, just worked for me. On top of that, my friends because they kept me from killing myself. Story 26. Money lol. People who say money can't buy happiness haven't been destitute for almost 40 years ready to blow their brains out. As it turns out, my chronic depression had nothing to do with chemical imbalances in my brain. It had to do with not being able to afford to live in a HQL area. 3 years depression-free. Sure, the new job is stressful, but the money keeps rolling in, and it sure is less stressful than living paycheck to paycheck. Story 27. Diet and exercise are more powerful than any prescription. The changes are authentic and sustainable, but they don't make anyone any money, so you don't hear as much about them as you might hear about meds on TV, etc. Story 28. Routine, positive routine. I work out every day, do jujitsu, do something to exercise my brain, Duolingo, read, etc. The activity gets endorphins up. The learning gives me something to focus on and expands my horizons. It's all a distraction. When I have to deviate from my routine, I get irritable. Every day is a series of stratagems to not fall apart. It's not perfect. Has plenty of flaws, actually, but it's better than nothing. Story 29. Psychedelics. No, it's not for everyone, but it has worked extremely well so far for me and has worked better for others. Just make sure to do any research first, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Story 30. I won't say I defeated depression, but survival for me relies on positive self-talk. Every single time my brain betrays me and tries to tell me I'm shithouse, I have to remind myself consciously and deliberately that I do not as a human, that I have value and worth, and making mistakes is okay and not world-ending. Story 31. Realizing that it wasn't just one thing that made me better, but years and years of a large combination of things, including but not limited to the following: walking 10,000 steps a day, 2 drinking cold, pressed juice, 3 dressing nice and doing my hair pretty, 4 going to individual counseling, 5 going to rehab for my addiction, 6 going to family therapy to improve family relationships, 7 setting healthy boundaries, 8 taking zinc when I feel a cold coming on, 9 taking 30-minute naps, 10 finding a few good TV shows to watch, 11 making a self-care plan, 12 getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. The average amount of sleep is 7 to 9, but I need extra to my medications. 13 making more supportive friends. 14 getting rid of relationships with people who only take from me while never giving back. 15 going to AA and NA for my addictions. 16 packing a healthy lunch for school or work. 17 saying no when I need to. 18 having fun every now and again. 19 writing out my entire life story and highlighting any and all of the 4 types of abuse, 4 types of neglect, or multiple types of trauma, researching what effects that each of them can have on my life, and having compassion to my character, defects related to each of them. 20 looking up the Freud's defense mechanisms and seeing which ones I have, and setting smart goals to help remove all of them from my life. 21 making sure all goals I set in my life were SMART, meaning specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, to ensure that I would be most likely to reach all of them. 22 taking baths and having spa days. Story 32. I finally got my teeth to be white for the camera. I've always been depressed over my teeth, and I kept doing whitening didn't really work. I even tried that V34 color corrector, but it was a scam. Then I just started buying this 20 ORL Cares toothpaste, and about 6 weeks later, someone commented on my teeth at the restaurant. Story 33. DBT helped tremendously, and getting off of prescriptions, changing my day-to-day routine, letting go of things that were actually doing more harm than good. Story 34. Ketamine and therapy. I did IV ketamine at a clinic, and then later Spravato. That, combined with therapy, was literally life-saving. The ketamine was kind of my last resort after struggling for a long time with constant suicidal ideation, anhedonia, and depression. It worked, and I'm so much better now. Story 35. Mine was 2 different events over the period of a few years. The first event was when I tried to hang myself, but the belt broke, and I woke up on the floor having pissed myself. Realized the gravity of what I had just done, how it impacted my family when my cousin had hung himself, and how lucky I was that I picked a reversible belt. If I had used a regular belt, I'd be dead right now. While that event didn't make me less depressed, I haven't had a single serious suicidal thought since. The second event was a few years later when I was feeling depressed around my birthday. I used to sell LSD, so I squirted some of one of the vials under my tongue and drove off to my favorite spot in nature. Got to my spot and waited for the acid to kick in, and when it did, I just sat there and thought for 8 hours straight. No walking around, no music, just sitting there looking out at the landscape with my thoughts. That's the event that shifted my thinking, and I haven't been that level of depressed since. Story 36. Finding a way to stay positive as much as possible, realizing that I could not control what others think about or see me. What matters is my own opinion, learning to let go. I found that the odd thing of writing down what got me and tearing them up and throwing out as symbolic. Did it enough times that helped. Big thing getting help and not being afraid to ask for it. Lastly, it was hard, but cutting out the negative influences and learning my feelings and thoughts did not need to be dictated by others. Oh, one more: find reasons to laugh even if at myself. Good luck to you. Story 37. I am not really sure depression is something you beat. You learn to live with it, become better at dealing with it, but it's always there in the back. It's something that can be managed so it doesn't affect your life as significantly anymore. I think being realistic in your expectations is important, or you will be left wondering why it's back even though you beat it. In reality, There are going to be ups and downs in living with a disorder. Story 38. Meditation for me. I know some people think it's bunk, but they're wrong. Unfortunately, I have trouble sticking with it and keep having drinking issues every so many months. It's so simple but so annoyingly difficult to get right. Story 39. Doing something. I spent probably 3 years barely doing anything besides sleeping and doom scrolling the internet because I had no motivation or energy to do anything else. Eventually, a family friend offered me a job at the store he runs, basically just standing at a counter for 8 hours, helping maybe a dozen people a day. I took it more out of boredom than anything else. Just the act of getting out of my house, talking to the occasional person, and just being somewhere different were what made the first cracks to help break out of the depressive slump I had dug into. This won't be a magical saving grace. It still took several years for me to fully drag myself out of that mindset, with the support of several good friends, but it was definitely a starting point, a place steady enough to actually try to improve from. Story 40. I needed supplements to get started. Ashwagandha, omega-3 fish oil, vitamins D3K2, and B complex. Once that helped elevate my mood, my motivation came back and I hit the gym consistently while eating sleeping better. Story 41. You never truly defeat depression, my friend. You just learn to live with it and how to deal with it when it gets bad. Eventually, you will notice the physiological, psychological, and emotional markers that indicate an oncoming episode, and you can take necessary precautions such as letting those closest to you know if things get too bad. Make plans to surround yourself with comfort things, doing your coziest pastime, and be okay with canceling plans if you need to. Watch your diet and don't cocoon too long and you'll be fine. Be honest with anyone who deserves to know and remember that anyone who isn't also doesn't. You can fight this and survive it. I believe in you. Story 42. Went to the psychiatrist. Got on meds. Got a cat. Cat's meds gave me the motivation to try new things and move my body without falling into darkness. Took 2 to 3 years, but achieved small goals and fed myself regularly. Then finally realized that everything is fleeting. So if I ever get depressed again, the fog will clear soon and I can get back to my routine again. I just have to be patient. Story 43. It comes and goes. I just try to maintain a healthy lifestyle, eat right, sleep right, exercise. I know it's going to come back, but I also know that it's going to go away. Story 44. I haven't beaten it, but it's a lot more manageable now than it was before. Honestly, what helps me is admitting that I'm having a bad day and letting myself have a bad day, but reminding myself that tomorrow is going to be better. Story 45. Everyone has to try to find what works for themselves. If antidepressants work, great. If exercise works, wonderful. If a life change works, good. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Some people don't even defeat it but learn to manage it. I found DBT to be a great tool in managing the anxiety that contributes to my depression. I have not defeated depression, but I've learned to live with it and manage as best I can. Story 46. Really push for the right treatment. It took me 18 years and a good few stays in a psych ward, but I got there eventually with the right doctor bipolar diagnosis. I'm finally where I've been hoping to be, being able to leave a toxic job and relationship, gaining my self-worth back. Music and self-care help, and I don't even feel guilty taking time to do nothing if that's what I need. I've never looked back. Good luck. Story 47. I was in a really bad place for a long time and I just prayed and getting close to the Heavenly Almighty Father. Thank you, God, for our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Much love, everyone, and take care. Story 48. Unsurprisingly, therapy and daily meditation. I'd tried fighting my way through in every other way imaginable. A year of DBT and a few months of trauma therapy, and am now on the other side after being severely depressed for over a decade. I still use what I learned every day and continue to improve. It's an everyday mental health hygiene mindset with the tools to make that real. Sincerest luck on your journey. Take the middle path. Story 49. I haven't defeated depression, but I've reduced it quite a bit. I've tried medications until I found the right ones. Been in years of therapy until I found a good fit. Couples counseling to help relationship trouble isn't necessary for this, TMS, ECT, and esketamine. Other than that, I've made little changes like to my diet, started exercising, and have learned to develop healthy relationships with friends and other acquaintances. I've also helped push our family into higher income. You just have to try things until you find out what works for you. It might take years, but there's always hope. I did loads of research into different treatments and what aspects of life influence happiness levels to figure out what I needed to do to fight my depression, and it's finally starting to work. Story 50. Time and God preventing me from doing something permanent. I was emotionally unbalanced due to puberty. I just waited, and my feelings just magically improved improved about literally everything. Story 51. This will get downvoted to oblivion, but if it could possibly help even one person, that's all that matters. What defeated my depression and anxiety and filled me with peace was Jesus. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And if you're desperate, it's worth a try. Call out to him for help, and if he's real, you will get an answer. Story 52. I lost my daughter a year and a half ago and suffered with a little depression, but I leaned on God and he pulled me through. Now I help others get through their losses. Story 53. Moving to a different country. Taking myself completely out of the situation I was in. Found new hobbies that are outdoors and forced me to get out and do things. It basically ripped me out of all my habits and made me build new ones. Story 54. Meditation. Observe what you feel, think, see, hear, or just watch your breath, knowing there's nothing important than the present moment. Most problems actually come from your thought, the creativity of the mind, sometimes too overwhelmed. Story 55. Mine wasn't bad, but it's also a slippery slope, and once diagnosed, it was hard to digest. I think the first thing that helped me was seeing a TikTok of all things that explained the main character in the movie Limitless. First action when he became super smart was to clean and organize his. They then diagnosed why a smart, healthy person would do this. It removes weighing clutter and opens up energy. That day, I sat at my workbench and organized screws. And then I moved on and organized something the next day and every day after. The control it gave me has been priceless. Plus, it's a great reminder. Every time I need a random screw, I pull out that box and remember this is when I took control. I also got help and was on a med for a bit too. But this was the first thing that I felt moved me. Story 56. I was intentionally about changing my situation, surrounding myself with better people, less drinking and drugs, more sun, sitting with myself more, and trying to get to know myself and what I needed. Story 57. After just about every drug you could be on and being suicidal ideations daily, 6 weeks of every other day ECT did it for me. Been 2 years, and still getting used to not fighting my own brain daily. Story 58. I gave my life to God. It was a crazy experience, but in the snap of a finger, he healed me of my depression and anxiety that I had dealt with for over a decade. My life has only gone up since that day. Story 59. I stopped listening to music that was triggering my PTSD. I also was extremely lucky in being able to change my surroundings. Go to the gym and bury how you feel about the past in there. Story 60. First, I went no contact with my shitty family for 5 years. Second, I got a DUI, went to treatment, and quit drinking. Third, I got into therapy. Fourth, I completed DBT. Fifth, I set firm boundaries and made it clear that if my family wants to have a relationship with me, they have to treat me with respect. If not, I will not be attending their deathbed funeral. It was hard, but it worked. And I am happier than ever and put that dysfunction to bed forever. They know I will cut them the out of my life with no regrets if they with me ever again. Worked wonders. Story 61. This is gonna get me slaughtered on Reddit, but it is true. And if it helps anyone, then I'd gaff. But honestly, reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius changed my life and was the start of me clawing my way out of the hole. Story 62. I don't know that you ever really defeat depression. I think you keep it at bay one moment at a time and hope that those moments string together for as long as possible. Story 63. Going outside, just seeing nature. Then I met God and Jesus Christ, and the Bible changed my life. I try to respect myself as I would respect someone else, and that helps me to get up early at a normal time, brush my teeth, just doing the normal things. Story 64. Animals. I knew I needed to care for my animals, and if I didn't get up and clean my horses' stalls, feed them, and my cats, no one would do it, and I couldn't let them suffer because of me. Story 65. Psychedelics, mantras, meditation, moving my body, avoiding almost all media like my life depended on it did, and turning off every single notification on my phone. Story 66. Ketamine IV therapy, ayahuasca, and 5-MeO-DMT, as well as talk somatic therapy to integrate those experiences. I used to be suicidal. Haven't had a thought like that in a long time. Happy to provide more info if you'd like. Story 67. My war orphan dad would always say, just feel yourself happy, and it would me off so bad. As an adult, however, he was low-key, right? I got out of my shitty situation, got medical treatment, found better habits and people, but I was still miserable. Turns out, I have to actively practice choosing happiness every day. Story 68. Walking with my dog, till I was comfortable jogging every now and then, lost weight and stuck to my goals week by week, till I completed 6 half marathons in graduate school. My dog was a huge part of my success. Story 69. The medication gabapentin, which, besides directly helping to alleviate my depression, also helped me quit drinking, which in turn helped alleviate it even more. Story 70. I started not caring about problems and started being present. Read The Power of Now. I stopped talking bad about myself and started telling myself, I'm a champion for being dealt this, and still struggling on. However, nothing helped as much as sleep and diet. When I repaired my gut microbiome, I had so much more energy and mental clarity. The best thing you can do is something hard. Story 71. Honestly, for me, working. It's not that I believe that work is good for your spirit or whatever, but going to a place where you are forced to interact with people and where your worth is obvious really helped me get from the bottom of the abyss into a place where I could get help. Story 72. Had extreme depression and gave myself the gift of therapy. Greatest thing to have happened to me. If you can, find a good therapist and it could change your life. Story 73-1. Having a good support system. I understand not everyone has this blessing, but if you do, don't shut out the people that really care about you and want to be there for you. I shut out my family for so long because I worried about being a burden. But once I got admitted to the psych ward, there really was no hiding it anymore. Once I opened up to them, my parents in this case, it was a relief, and they have been such a great support for me. 2. Therapy. I tried many different therapists until I found one I like. My current therapist is awesome. I'm very grateful to have found her, especially after dealing with some truly terrible therapists. I fully manage my mental health with weekly talk therapy at this point. 3. Improving my sleep. If I do not get enough sleep, I'm in trouble. My worst mental health days are the times when I did not get enough sleep the night before. Getting 8 hours of sleep per night makes a huge difference. Also, waking up at a reasonable time in the morning does too. I used to sleep in until 3 p.m. and I would feel like I wasted the whole day away, which made me feel like I try to be asleep by midnight and wake up around 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. 4. Eating better. Eat better. Feel better. That doesn't mean you need to never eat unhealthy food again, but increasing your fruits and veggies and getting enough protein can really help mood and energy levels. 5. Changing my situation where possible. I stopped surrounding myself with bad relationships. People who used me, people who abused me, people who put me down, and people who were really negative. At this point, I have one best friend who now lives in another country, my fiancé, and my family. It may not seem like a lot, especially in the friends department, but I am grateful for the people I do have and am much happier this way. I also changed jobs. I didn't graduate college, dropped out because my mental health, but I'm thinking of maybe doing community college now. So my options were somewhat limited, but I worked at a food service job I hated, and it was making me miserable. I now work an office job doing paperwork. Is it my favorite thing ever? No, but it certainly doesn't make me miserable, and I like the people I work with. 6. Stopped abusing weed. I enjoy it every once in a while now, but being a stoner definitely made my depression worse. It worsened my apathy and fatigue, which led to me just rotting in bed all day. Which brings me to the next thing on the list. 7. Just getting up and doing something. I used to always feel much better and still do if I accomplished something that day, even if it was something small like making my bed, going on a walk, or cooking a meal. I struggled with depression daily for 6 years, but that all came to an end around 3 years ago. I do not know if I will have a depressive episode at some point in the future, but doing all these things has helped me a lot. And if I do struggle with depression again, I feel like I have the tools to manage it. I do struggle with anxiety still, but I have that pretty much under control. It is very manageable at this point.